welcome back to the issue guy, and this is a preparation videos for your cloud interviews. So I'll start with something called as cloud computing attributes. Uh, so when you prepare for even a solution architecting exam or for an interview, you're gonna attend with any of the public vendors like Microsoft or AWS. So these are the few, what I can say is like you can see from the screen. So these are the few of the attributes which you actually need to concentrate in framing up your answers to the questions which gonna come from the interviewers, or the mindset you need to have before attending the solution architecting exams or with any of the cloud vendors. So one particular example, if let's pick it up with this particular thing where it says about abstract resources. So what exactly is abstract resources? Because the thing is, like, we are going more away from the monolithic approach of architecting solutions. Okay, so we are no need of putting up, we are not going to make solutions which would have virtual machines. In fact, we have resources like, there are PaaS services, there are other offerings which actually can replace this particular thing. There are serverless computing resources, whether you take Lambda functions or you take an example of Azure functions on Azure. They actually replace all of your compute power. Okay, so what I say with abstract resources is like, if we do not need any more servers or hard drives, but we just have instances for replacing any of the servers and volumes replacing any of the hard drives. So if you take an example of Azure, we have something called as persistent volume disks concepts, where you can actually run your databases, where you can run your disks, you can put your disks in there and then run it. Okay, so the ultimate goal is to provide a solution which can be tangible, tangible in the sense, like, you can scale up easily. Okay, so that's what abstract resource talk about. And the second point, the second more important attribute when you consider a cloud computing solution architecting, is on demand provisioning. Okay, so you want to, your teams, your application teams, or comes with various ideas. Okay, and they want to implement new ideas of processing the logic. Like, take an example of, if you have a batch of around 1 TB of data, and there is no point of making solutions of putting up a virtual machine and installing a scheduler or running a job to execute those things. But instead, why don't you just go with a PaaS services, like use a Lambda or Azure function to do the same job? Because that the utilization would be very less, because you do not need to run a virtual machine and waiting for a few minutes for that. Instead, you just run instantaneously. So that's what on demand provisioning is about. Like, you just ask for a service which suits your workload, and you use it, and you shut down when you do not use it. Because these Azure functions or Lambda functions with a lot of scheduler, or or trigger based mechanisms, or event based mechanisms. Okay, so that's what is the attribute of on demand provisioning says about. And scalability in minutes. Yeah, when you choose up the abstract resources and on-demand provisioning, you obviously have something called as scalability comes within hand in hand, where you just scale out your resources depending upon the usage, depending upon the workloads, depending upon the jobs which you're gonna process. So that is one third major thing, like you can scalable things, or scale out your compute memory, everything in minutes. And the other thing is, like, when you choose all of these three above, you obviously just paying upon the consumption or number of processes or number of jobs you have executed exactly. Okay, let's take an example. Like, if you have a job, like if you have an e-commerce website, where you have orders which are coming into the queues. Okay, and the orders in the queues are like, each particular, it can be a JSON, or it can be order in form of JSON, or order in form of a request to, or maybe a REST API call. Okay, you just go use that particular job, trigger the REST API, or process that API, that particular request to JSON with any of the AML algorithm, do the predict analysis, do the order job, everything. Okay, so you just pay what you used. And automation, yes, automation is required when you are thinking about the concept of no ops in your organization. No ops basically means that like you do not want operations, or you do not want to make your operations guy to sit on your DB, or sit on your Linux or the Windows DB on patching or doing certain things. Like, instead of, why don't you use just the APIs which are exposed by public vendors, and then you automate this one with using a scriptable infrastructure. Like, if you take an example of infrastructure as a code, like use a Terraform, or use an ARM template, or use a cloud formation template to do actually your job. So that is what is the automation stuff which you need to take care. And these all are about the cloud computing attributes which you need to take care before making a solution, or in fact before architecting a solution, or before preparing for interviews to answer. Because take an example of, if you're preparing for architecting exam or an interview, you need to whiteboard it, so that simultaneously you need to put up all of your ideas across these particular 5 particular attributes, and for sure shot you're gonna clear that particular interview or exam.